Hey everyone, today we're going to work on a SKIL version of a Sawzall or reciprocating saw. I don't know, I've never seen one before. About the only things I can say that are wrong with it, other than it being scratched up, are the trigger pull is jammed, so you can't really pull it in, and it's plastic, and it's old plastic, so it's very brittle. So we need to take that apart. We need to inspect the wiring. We'll see how we can grease this thing up. But let's take a look at this. It's an interesting design. So this is it, as found. This is supposed to be red, and it's jammed up. I like the feel of the trigger, but I don't want to squeeze it too hard. It's stuck. I want to see what's going on behind there, if it's just a toggle switch or something. As you can see, it's scratched up. It is a model 577 type 1. Oh, it says Recipro Saw, made in USA. Interestingly, it's all flathead screws, so even the bottom. I don't know if that helps date it. This handle is wood. That should help date it. It's tough to say. It's been rewired before. I don't like this. It's the insulation is torn and it's way over compressed into this. So when we take that apart, we'll see if we can improve that, and maybe just change out this cord, because this is a replacement end. I don't like using those. But anyway, that's our mission for today. This should be fairly easy to get apart and hopefully easy to get working again. Then I just have to decide if I want to try to repaint it. It's not like a lot of the tools I do where we just polish it out. This one is actually painted. So if we're going to try to get it to look really nice again, we're going to have to paint it, which shouldn't be difficult. It's all silver except for this and the decal. There's only one decal, right? Yeah, well, we could paint the logo. We could do that as well. But hey, that's our mission for today. Let's get busy. All right, to start, let's look at what's going on with this trigger. I doubt it's anything big. That was loose, but I just don't want to squeeze that trigger if it is in fact jammed, because this is, as I said, brittle plastic. It'll be interesting to see how this all comes apart, because this whole assembly looks like it just comes right apart, like all of it, not just the top half, although it does appear to come apart in halves. There's screws on both sides. I'm not sure why we would need to take all of it apart if, as I said, one side lifts off. Okay, yeah, the insulation is pinched. It has been rewired. What's going on with the switch? It is a toggle switch. It's an upside down toggle switch. So the toggle is down in here. This thing is pretty brittle. Oh, look at that. The switch just popped out. So is there something? Well, I don't want to break the switch, but it doesn't want to move. So this was orange. I would have thought this was red. Well, it's off. It's pretty easy to clean it up and paint it. I am not going to have one of these replacement switches, so it is really corroded. I'll give you a close-up. This is why I didn't want to kind of force that trigger. If you can see, this is really corroded in there. So something's stuck. All right, so I'm gonna get some cleaner and we'll see if we can get this switch going again. I'll be back. Got some electrical contact cleaner here. Let's start with this. Not that I expect this to do much to loosen it up, but at the very least it'll clean it up. Let's look at this wiring. How they at this. I don't like this strain relief. It's cutting right into the cable. You can see it split the insulation. Oh, the switch does pop right out. Alright, so how do they do this? Jeez. In a metal body tool, that's probably not the best idea. It doesn't look like the wire's pinched, so the wire was probably still good, but that electrical tape, the tip was still showing on that. I don't know. I'm going to replace the power cord and hopefully, I don't know if I have enough wire to do this better, but it's certainly better than that. This is why people are afraid of metal body tools, because they think they're going to get a shock. And from that, you could have gotten a shock from that, because it's right up against the body. The tape wasn't completely covering it. They did a good job on the solder. Look at this. This is odd because this is burnt. This tape is burnt, and this connection is burnt. Huh. Alright, so this is the switch wire. It's pretty easy. Yeah. Yeah, orange wire. That's a new one. I do actually have orange spray paint for this. I didn't think I did, but I do. There's not much in here. I used it for Halloween one time to restore a blow mold, I believe. All right, let me get my soldering gun, and I'm gonna get a replacement cable. This is, I mean, the wire's okay. I don't like these replacements, and I certainly don't like these, so I'm gonna have to desolder it anyway. So if I've happen to have an orange cable, which I think I do, that would be ideal. All right, it turns out I have one. I have a brand new orange power cord, which I picked up from Amazon for just such an occasion. So because these wires are not very long, I'm not going to clip them. I'm going to desolder them to get them apart. Let me get some needle nose pliers. And of course, I'm doing all this, and I have not even gotten the switch moving yet, but I don't think this is going to be an issue. If necessary, the switch does come apart, but some dust came out. So, where was it jamming? Now it's fine. I very much doubt that little bit of contact cleaner did that. I think it was more me forcing it. All right, let's get this. Let's get these wires apart. Difficult than I thought. All right. Guys, soldered or just twisted together? I guess it is soldered. Our locking pliers should help. It's interesting, they have a white, I would assume what should go to the white wire, but they did not do it that way. I mean, it's a one-way switch, so I don't see anything really wrong with that. It's just a little odd. See if I got a better strain relief. I'm pretty sure I do. Yeah, pretty sure that'll fit in there nice. Alright, so let's take our perfectly good power cable and cut the end off and ruin it as for it ever being a power cable again. And let's, how much do we need? Need much there, but we are going to have to trim it. How much do they give us? Not that much. So the trick to this is don't squeeze very tightly. Just want to go around lightly till it cuts through the outer insulation. You do not want to cut through the inner insulation at all. And, you know, I flex it every now and then just to see if we're through. Pretty thick insulation on this cord. Almost through. Let's see if we can get it apart. It's a pretty thick insulation on this cord. So interesting, they soldered some of it and used wire nuts on some of it. Out of this as well. I can't really tell. It's very corroded because this wire got very hot. Well, I'm going to take a bet that there is solder on this. I can't really see it, but it feels like it. It's just very corroded. doesn't appear there's solder on it. Guess I was wrong there. So we're gonna have to cut it because I don't have cutters here, do we? So we'll use this. We're gonna have to cut this because it's corroded together, oddly enough. Alright. Let's strip this guy. Did not need to desolder this, it looks like. It looks to me like for this black one especially, I actually have space for these. And that's good, because these work really well for stuff like this. Probably going to trim it down. Maybe not. There is room in here. It's funny. So for these, it's solder and shrink tubing. Once I get it positioned right, I actually crimp it in a little bit. I know people say you don't need to do that. I do. Okay. That's it. White does not have to be long at all. But it doesn't look like we're going to be able to fit one of those under that switch, because this wire's got to go there. There. Yeah, we don't have a lot of room for the white, unless the white went like that. I don't know. Let's try that. So what I'm thinking about doing, they just had the white wire here with a bunch of electrical tape on it. What I'm going to see if I can do, put this wire up here, it keeps pulling down. Let's see if I can route all of the wires down and back up. Just gotta be careful with this. Oh, this thing is gonna push in. Doesn't push in too far, but that wire can't be there. These have to go like that. Yeah, this is gonna work, I think. I can go like white wire is gonna go. Okay. All right, take the switch out so I have some more room. I need one more of these. Way. Let's heat it up. Be nice if I had a little piece of wood I could put under this to insulate it. Let me try to get that. We are done with the heat gun. All right, it turns out I have one. I have a brand new orange power cord, which I picked up from Amazon for just such an occasion. So because these wires are not very long, I'm not going to clip them. I'm going to desolder them to get them apart. Let me get some needle nose pliers. And of course I'm doing all this and I have not even gotten the switch moving yet, but I don't think this is going to be an issue. If necessary, the switch does come apart, but some dust came out. So, where was it jamming? Now it's fine. I very much doubt that that little bit of contact cleaner did that. I think it was more me forcing it. All right, let's get this. Let's get these wires apart. See if I got a better strain relief. I'm pretty sure I do. Yeah, pretty sure that'll fit in there nice. All right, so let's take our perfectly good power cable and cut the end off and ruin it as for it ever being a power cable again. And let's, how much do we need? We don't need much there, but we are gonna have to trim it. How much do they give us? Not that much. So, the trick to this is don't squeeze very tightly. Just want to go around lightly till it cuts through the outer insulation. You do not want to cut through the inner insulation at all. And you know, I flex it every now and then just to see if we're through. Pretty thick insulation on this cord. Almost there. Let's see if we can get it apart. pretty thick insulation on this cord. So interesting, they soldered some of it and used wire nuts on some of it. Some of this as well. It looks to me like for this black one especially, I actually have space for these. And that's good, because these work really well for stuff like this. Probably going to trim it down. Maybe not. There is room in here. It's funny. So for these, it's solder and shrink tubing. Once I get it positioned right, I actually crimp it in a little bit. I know people say you don't need to do that. I do. Out of the way. Just confusing things. Yeah, we don't have a lot of room for the white, unless the white went like that. I don't know. Let's try that. So what I'm thinking about doing, they just had the white wire here with a bunch of electrical tape on it. What I'm gonna see if I can do, put this wire up here, it keeps pulling down. Let's see if I can route all of the wires. Down and back up. Just gotta be careful with this. Oh, this thing is gonna push in. Doesn't push in too far, but that wire can't be there. These have to go like that. Yeah, this is gonna work, I think. That can go like that, and the white wire is gonna go. Okay. All right. Take the switch out so I have some more room. I need one more of these. way. Let's heat it up. It'd be nice if I had a little piece of wood I could put under this to insulate it. Let me try to get that. We are done with the heat gun. Get that out of the way. Alright, so I think I'm going to put it, where's the other half? Yeah, I'm going to put a terminal ring on this. I'm using a blue, and so on the crimpers I'm going to crimp using the blue. Let's test it. Good. Alright, let's see how this is all going to work. Goes in there. A lot of wires cramming in here that weren't here before. I can see why they did it the way they did it. Yeah, and having this green wire extra long isn't going to help, but we'll see. We'll see what we can do. Let's see if it goes together first. And if it doesn't, we'll shorten this green wire out. It should go together. Yep. And the switch is going to work. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this up and paint it, but for right now I'm going to put this guy back together. And test it, because I can test it just with that switch. And I can also paint it as one piece after I clean the oil and grease off of it, without this orange part on. Then to put the orange part on, I will just take this handle back off, put this thing in place. But let's test it. Okay, to test it, since this is a metal bodied tool, I'm going to put my rubber glove on. I'm going to plug into this, which is off. So the first thing I'm going to do is apply power. Okay, nothing happened, that's good. And now let's flick the switch and see what it does. Works. Alright. Off. Unplugged. Let's look at how you grease it. Pretty cool, we got it wired up already. Might be easier to work on without the wooden handle, which is also something I will need to paint separately. side or on top. Both places are equally awkward. All right. Let's take this bottom plate off and see what's in there. All right, that's how you grease it. How bad's the grease? Well, that grease is okay. That grease is a little chalkier, but we'll replace it all. All right, so this thing fell out, oddly enough. So there is a mechanism here that is going to have to be reassembled. So let's get you a close-up so you can see what you're in for when you take this apart. Okay, so you got several pieces. This is just stuck to there by grease. That was stuck in by grease and fell out as soon as I took it out. So it's going to be interesting putting this thing back together. This hole goes on the motor. That's how it goes in and out. And this hole goes on that shaft. All right, can you catch all that? So you'll see when I put it back together. But let me dig all this grease out and I'll be right back. The good news is that at some point in this thing's life, it was re-greased. Probably the same time that the new power cord was added, because you can see here, there's different colors and grades of grease on it. Oddly, they didn't take the old grease out so much as just add grease to it. But you know, that's okay. Because by greasing it, they probably made sure that this thing's going to run for another 50 years. All right, let's put some grease in. It's tough to say exactly where all the grease goes on this. But that's probably enough. All right, let's pop these pieces back. Get some grease down there. I'm kind of taking the shaft and I'm putting some grease all the way down. All right, so as I was saying how this goes, so see how this piece is laying on this piece comes off and goes like that. It goes on that and on that post. Okay. This is why I wear gloves when I do this. And then this plate goes back on. Let's see, do we have enough grease there? I'm gonna put some grease on top of that. Because that appears to slide on the plate. I know people may wonder why I'm not using like an electric screwdriver or something for this. Because I like to feel what the screwdrivers are doing. And can't do that really with an electric screwdriver. when putting these screws in, I'm going to say it again, I always say it, just put them all in, then snug them all, and then tighten them all. You don't want to go aggressive on any of them until they're all in. Okay. Let's do a quick test. And make sure that the mechanism is still set up right, because I did play with it and I don't want to get too far. Okay, we're good. So what's left? Well, I'd like to clean the motor. Maybe this is how you do it. Maybe this is how you get at it. I don't know. I'd like to be able to oil the bearings as well. And this is how you do it. All right, there's a lot of gunk in there. So let's tip this guy over on its side and get this sawdust out. And we'll do the same here. Let's use some of that. A little unorthodox, but it does the job. Let me get some paper towels. So to oil the bearing, we're going to use 30 weight, but what I plan on doing first, before I do that, is we're going to use your favorite and mine, dry lube. This is not regular WD-40. Dry lube is for exactly what I'm about to use it for. It is for lubricating engine motors, and it works very well as a cleaner as well. But do not use WD-40 in your motors. Do not run this until everything in here should dry up. Then you kind of know that it's dried up in there. All right, so for the motor itself, when this is dry, we're going to just use 20 or 30 weight oil a little bit on the bearing down here. How are our brushes? Brushes are good. They're still good. Put some oil in here. On the inside. And put a little bit of oil in here. This is probably the actual oiler hole. tape. Looks like they were holding the handle together with tape at some point. Hopefully I won't have to do that. It occurs to me that if I'm going to be painting this, I've got to cover this from the inside. Or else paint's gonna get in there. Of course, I could paint it separately and just mask all this up. I don't know which one is the better route. But when painting, you don't want to get paint inside your motor. Alright, we'll keep these two screws in here. Alright. Let's get some hex bits. I'm going to assume these are not metrics. Does appear this was painted as well. All right. Let's get some acetone, clean it, and mask it up. Mask up this label, and then paint it. Clean the label, we're just going to use some glass cleaner. I don't want to use acetone on the label. For the plastic switch, I'm going to use some steel wool to rough it up. But I don't want it to be too abrasive. I want to see how bad the plastic actually is. If you've ever used orange spray paint, you'll know what I'm in for. It's usually terrible. It doesn't stick to anything. Or it doesn't coat. It takes like 50 coats to get it to do anything. Look at that, there's silver paint on this thing. Isn't that interesting? All right. I've got a couple rags. I'm gonna put some plastic or rubber gloves on, and I'm just gonna wipe this down with acetone, because there is a lot of grease on everything. All right, for this, we're just gonna mask that whole thing up as best we can. Same with the cord. Good question what to do with this thing. It looks like it was painted. May paint that black, but all right. I have not got a lot of faith in this orange, and you'll see why. See that? It coats poorly, and it doesn't really even look like orange. So I think there's a good chance that I may actually paint this thing red. It's gonna take a lot of coats. It's hot out, so we'll see how like 10 coats ends up looking. All right, the camera's not gonna last long because it's 90 degrees out and we're in the sun. I'm wrapping the cord in a plastic bag just to keep overspray off of it. Check the cord, make sure we're sealed. All right, and we're painting with hammered silver. Does not require primer. Should be pretty close proximity to this, and it is. It's going to dry very quickly. So we're going to put a fine coat on, and then move on to the heavier coats. This is also a very durable finish. Will it be as good as the one that was on it from the factory? I doubt it. All right, so we're gonna let this sit for a bit. Once this is fully dry, we'll paint the underside. That may actually have to wait till tomorrow, but we'll see. Probably better that I do it today, because if you wait a day and you don't wait 4 or 5 days, you can have a problem with the paint starting to peel again. Paint on the top part is pretty much dry, so what I'm going to do is, holding this very lightly, take this tape out. Put these screws, I used steel wool on the top of these screws. Put these guys back in. So we're good there. Now I just have to paint the underside. And I'm going to do that actually by holding this thing by the power cord. I just gotta go hang this thing up to dry. All right, while that's drying, I'm going to paint the handle. And I'm gonna use the same, just hammered black. All right, so it's about 5 p.m. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give it a few days for the paint to fully cure. So probably like 3 days, because hammer does take longer. And I'm gonna have to maneuver the saw a lot in order to get the blade on, the guard on, the wooden handle back on, and compress the trigger handle into place. So I'm gonna make sure the paint is thoroughly cured before I do that. So I'll see you in a few days. All right, let's put it back together. Let's see how our masking job worked on the decal or tag. Good. Wouldn't have expected the tape to stick to that. It's all grease. Okay, that's good, that's good. That's done. Let's open this guy up and put our switch back in. All right, let's test this. look at that. All right. I don't really like the spring action on this switch too much, but it does work. All right, you got this guard here. I do have a blade. Kind of interesting. I decided to go with a different blade because the DeWalt, the yellow blade I was using, was too big. And it's interesting, these old blades I've got, these are Milwaukee that I found in one of the toolboxes. This is actually smaller than the DeWalt. The DeWalts are taller, and so the DeWalt doesn't fit. It doesn't fit in this thing. All right, let me plug it in, give it a last try out. Blade is tight. Nah, I got some dirt on my orange paint. That's good. That looks okay with the white blade. I kind of liked it with the yellow, but it looks good. All right, that's it. This thing came out great. The silver hammered finish looks fantastic. We were able to save the original decal. Once you figure out how to get the blade on, it tightens it down really well. It actually tightens it down better than my old 1950s Milwaukee Sawzall. So this thing's ready to go back to work. If you like this content, you found it interesting, enjoyable, or if you have one of these that you want to restore, you know, please like and subscribe. That helps me. It helps the channel grow. And hey, if you do have one of these that you want to restore or something similar, it's not hard. You can do it. All you got to do is just go out, get busy. Take care.